Hello everybody, my name is Mario5514, and in today's video we're going to be looking at some of the third weapon kits for Splatoon 3. These are third weapon kits that I thought up of as I made a list of them. As of 10.0 we have 30 new third weapons, 15 of them are from Barazuchi and the others are from Embers. It's kind of a trend that we saw in Splatoon 2 with the Toni Kensa weapons, as well as they showed a bit of Sheldon's picks from Splatoon 1 back in 2016. Could we see Sheldon's picks in Splatoon 3 like we've seen in Splatoon 2, as well as from Splatoon 1? So what you're about to see are some of the third kits that I've created myself. Some of these are references from what they've had in the previous game, while others are brand new ideas that we could possibly see for these weapons, or just updated kits, probably from like the same sub or special they've had in the previous games, but with a different or new sub and special. If you end up liking the video, consider subscribing, and let's get started. First up is the Wasabi Splatter Shot, with Burst Bomb and Triple Splashdown. The Ember Splatter Shot was given Burst Bomb and Kraken Royale, but I kind of think Triple Splashdown would be better for Splatter Shot, because I don't know if Kraken Royale would even be as good for Splatter Shot, but it's still a viable special. I'd still take Kraken Royale over Inkvac or Splatter Color Screen. So at least Splatter Shot did not get any of those two. I'm still fine with Kraken, but I think Triple Splashdown would have worked a lot better. And not only that, having 210 points for special would definitely make the weapon more balanced, so it's not spamming as much of the special unless someone's using more than one main of special charge up. So this could definitely work more for Splatter Shot. I mean, it's a shame it did not get it, but as long as it keeps Burst Bomb, I'm still fine with it. All right, next up is Splooshmatic 7 with Splat Bomb and Trizuka. So this is a reference from what I had in Splatoon 1, which was Splat Bomb and Inkzuka. This was one of the best kits Sploosh was ever given. Even though in Splatoon 2 it kept Splat Bomb, but it was given Ultra Stamp instead. Even though they're not going to give Sploosh Ultra Stamp again because they gave it to the regular model. But still, I think Splat Bomb and Zuka would still work on Sploosh. Splat Bomb helping for poking power, and then Trizuka for long range threats. Basically helping situations where Sploosh can't reach. And I think 200p would definitely be exceptional, so it's not going to spam the special as much as what we see with the regular Sploosh having 180p Ultra Stamp, and Neo Sploosh having 170 Killer Whale. So I think 200p would be, 200 would definitely be exceptional in this case here. Alright, next up Zenzap 83 with Point Sensor and Kraken Royale. This is the reference that I had in Splatoon 1, and a lot of people will say this is just random, or this will not work, but I think this game plan for this weapon would be interesting here. You could charge your special a lot faster than on Heavy Splatling Deco, which has the same kit here. Game plan would be charge your special, throw Point Sensor, deploy Kraken, and watch them run. Anyone who you do not splat, they would either run back to their base, or they would run right into your teammates, and you would just be making it easier for them to go after them. And I think 200p for NZAP would definitely be exceptional, so it's not going to be spamming Kraken, as the NZAP 85 can't spam Tacticooler as it once did. So I think 200p is going to be the best for NZAP here, especially with an invincibility special like Kraken. Alright, next up is Soda Slosher with Torpedo and Zuka. This kit was originally supposed to have Burst Bomb, but I decided to use Torpedo so it's more balanced, as a lot of people would probably not want the broken chip damage that this weapon had from Splatoon 1, which Slosher had Burst Bomb and Ink Strike. A lot of people would probably not want Burst Bomb on Slosher again. Not only that, 200p on Trizuka would definitely be enough for Soda Slosher to get enough Trizuka, but at the same time, it's going to be in a position where it can get it as much, but at the same time, it has to work hard for it. So I think 200p would work for this weapon. Alright, next up is Grim Range Blaster, or GRB, with Burst Bomb and Killer Whale 5.1. This is the reference that it had in Splatoon 1, which was Burst Bomb and Killer Whale. I think Killer Whale at 190p would be exceptional here, because at the same time you would have a kit that's focused on chip damage. You have Burst Bomb, which works very well for Range Blaster, and not to mention you have Killer Whale 5.1, which will definitely be an interesting playstyle here for this weapon. I could see it being a lot better than some of the other Killer Whale weapons, especially better than Splattershot Nova, which I don't know why they gave it Killer Whale 5.1, even though the best one with Killer Whale is 52 gal. And not only that, 190p will definitely be exceptional for Grim Range, because Range Blaster is the worst painting weapon in the game. So I think 190p would definitely give the weapon an edge in seeing a lot more use compared to the regular model in the CRB. Alright, next up is Heavy Splatling Remix with Splash Wall and Booyah Bomb. This was a kit that I thought up of myself. Other people have thought of this themselves as well, and I think this would be an ideal kit for Heavy. Having a special that's more focused on displacement, as the regular Heavy is focused on support because of Wavebreaker, and Heavy Deco is more aggressive with its Kraken Royale kit, as well as with Point Sensor. Splash Wall could protect the weapon as you're charging up the main weapon, and Booyah Bomb could easily enable attacks from a distance, as well as the main weapon itself can keep its distance. So this would be the ideal kit for Heavy here. Alright, next up are the Toni Kensa Collection with Fizzy Bomb and Inkjet. This is a kit that some people have talked about, even though they have suggested like Big Bubbler or Crab Tank with Fizzy Bomb. But I see Inkjet more on these weapons than Crab Tank or Big Bubbler. Even though the Ember Splat Dualies already have Fizzy Bomb and Big Bubbler, I could still see the Dualies having Fizzy Bomb, because it's only the weapon in the same series can't have the same sub or special twice, which is the rule that's been in play since Splatoon 1. So even though the Splat Dualies can't have Fizzy Bomb again, the Toni Kensa Dualies could have Fizzy Bomb. It's just the same weapon in the same series can't have the same sub or special. That's the #1 rule. Not only that, 200p Inkjet would definitely be exceptional here, because I mean, at least you're not going to be spamming it as much, and not only that, you're going to be in a position where you have same poking power as you would with the Ember Splat Dualies, as well as what we see with Tri-Slosher Nouveau and Ballpoint Splatling. So this is also going to be a repeat. This is just a repeat of Ballpoint, but it's going to be on weapons that's going to use the kit very reliably. Next up is Fresh Squiffer with Suction Bomb and Kraken Royale. Even though this is the reference from Splatoon 1, I definitely see Suction Bomb working for Squiffer, as you have a very good painting sub that also allows you to smoke out your opponents in case they're a little too close to it. They will still take damage from the blast radius, but at the same time, you're able to paint a whole lot with the sub, and you can also charge your special a little faster as well than just with the main weapon. So I could definitely see this for a more aggressive option, but a lot of people would prefer the Inkjet option more, if I'm not mistaken. Alright, next up is the Aerospray PG with Burst Bomb and Kraken Royale. When the Ember's Aerospray, or the Aerospray EG, as I would like to call it, was given Burst Bomb, but it was given Splatter Killer Screen. I definitely see Kraken Royale working, as it forces Aerospray to get even closer to people than just the main weapon itself. And not only that, 200p Kraken will always be 200p Kraken would be ideal for a lot of the weapons, especially with the 96 gal Deco and Custom Range Blaster, given that they're currently at 210 points for special. So I think 200p for Kraken would be ideal, so the weapon is not going to be spamming it, and at the same time, it's not going to take an entire day just to get your first Kraken. So I think this kit would work a lot better than what the Ember's Aerospray has. Alright, next up is the Cherry H3 Nozzle Nose with Suction Bomb and Inkstorm. Originally I showed it with Suction Bomb and Trizuka, but a few people I've talked to said they would like to see a more displacement role for Cherry H3. So in fact, some people suggested Inkstorm, which I've decided to show here. And I think having a displacement type support special like Inkstorm would definitely be an interesting play for the weapon, as not only are you able to keep painting, but you also have a slight bit of chip damage with not only with the sub weapon, but also with the main weapon after you deploy Inkstorm. So I could see this working a lot better than what the Barazuchi H3 has, which is Suction Bomb and Triple Ink Strike. I think Ink Storm on a midline like H3 would work 2 times better than Triple Ink Strike. Because, I mean, you have Neo Splash, you have Slosher, and you have 10 attack Splatter Shot if you wanted to run Triple Ink Strike. Alright, next up is the Tempered Dynamo Roller with Auto Bomb and Killer Whale 5.1. So when the Embers Dynamo Roller dropped, it was given Point Sensor and Killer Whale 5.1. And I will say this. Point Sensor is just random. Not only that, it's the worst sub you could put on Dynamo Roller. Because it may be helpful. I mean, location on Dynamo could be useful, but at the same time, you have Killer Whale 5.1, which could help for location as well as for attacking. Not only that, Auto Bomb could provide the painting, even though it will not paint as much compared to like Suction Bomb or Splat Bomb, but Auto Bomb could also help for location as it can sniff out where your opponents are hiding, and not to mention it could also help for painting as well. And not only that, 190p Killer Whale would definitely be ideal. I think that's what the Embers Dynamo Roller has. So I think Auto Bomb would be a lot better for Dynamo than Point Sensor. Alright, next up is the Bamboo Mach 3 with Burst Bomb and Triple Ink Strike. I think this is a kit that really pushes Bamboo to be very aggressive, but at the same time have a displacement role. As what we see the Bamboo Mach 1 having a kind of an aggressive set with Auto Bomb and Killer Whale 5.1. We have the Bamboo Mach 2, which is more of a displacement type support, which basically is Super Chump, which is a distraction special. But I think Bamboo Mach 3 having Burst Bomb and Triple Ink Strike would definitely be more ideal. And even though this would probably just push custom Dowsers out of the way, but Bamboo with Burst Bomb would definitely be crazy powerful. Burst Bomb would definitely combo off of Bamboo's charge damage, which is 85, which is basically making Bamboo a one-shot. So this would definitely work for Bamboo, more than custom Dowser Dualies. Alright, next up is Refurbished Mini Splatling with Suction Bomb and Trizuka. So when the Barazuchi Mini Splatling dropped, it was given Squid Beacon and Trizuka. They got half the somewhat reference from what the Mini Splatling in Splatoon 1 had, which was Suction Bomb and Inkzuka, but they gave Mini Splatling Squid Beacon. I don't know why they gave Squid Beacon to a Mini Splatling. I would definitely see it on like Heavy Splatling. I would definitely see it on like Heavy Splatling or possibly Ballpoint, which Squid Beacon was on Ballpoint going in Splatoon 2, as it had Squid Beacon and Inkstorm. But I think Suction Bomb and Zuka would work a lot better for Mini Splatling, because not only do you have a painting sub, but you also have a special that could help the weapon take a fight from a distance, in which Mini Splatling's range can't reach. So this would definitely be an ideal kit for Mini, more than Squid Beacon and Zuka. Alright, next up is the Toni Kensa L3 Nozzle Nose. Auto Bomb and Booyah Bomb would be an interesting kit right here. As I think previously, or I think it's Splatoon 2, it had, I think it was given like, I think Splash Wall or something, and it was given Ultra, I do remember it having Ultra Stamp. But I mean, they're not going to give they're not going to give this weapon Ultra Stamp because they already gave it to the L3D. So I think Auto Bomb and Booyah Bomb would be an interesting choice here, and having 200p Booyah would definitely make it that you're having to work a little hard, but at the same time, you're able to deploy Booyah Bomb very reasonably. So this would definitely be the ideal kit for the L3 Nozzle Nose from Toni Kensa. Alright, next up is the Berry Splatter Shot Pro with Auto Bomb and Tacticooler. When the Barazuchi Splatter Shot Pro dropped with Splat Bomb and Tent Missiles, I was kind of surprised that they gave Tent Missiles to Splattershot Pro, because the most popular Tent Missile options besides the Splattershot Pro are Flings a Roller, Splatana Wiper Deco, and Reflux 450. Even though out of those three weapons, Flings a Roller and Reflux are just going to be used the most. Wiper Deco is rarely shown, but it's a weapon that's that kind of has a more supportive role, as well as having displacement, as Tent Missiles are more based around displacement. But I think Auto Bomb and Tacticooler would be interesting for Splattershot Pro, even though you have a sub weapon which is good for sniffing out your opponents, and you also have one of the best specials in the game next to Trizuka. So I would have, if this weapon was given this kit, this would have definitely changed things a lot. All right, next up is the Toni Kensa Undercover Brella, or as some people call it, including Prochara, Kunder, with Fizzy Bomb and Big Bubbler. This is basically a repeat of what the Ember Splat Duelist has, but it would be interesting to see an Undercover Brella be given Big Bubbler, because the Ember's Undercover Brella was given Curling Bomb and Killer Whale 5.1 for some odd reason. I don't know why. Not to mention, if people were wanting to use Undercover Brella, they'd probably just use the Ink Mine Reef Slider kit, as the Torpedo and Screen kit on the Sorella model is just not going to cut it. So I could see Fizzy Bomb working. Big Bubbler would provide more of a supportive stance, so it could actually go in and just be a pain in the butt, but at the same time, it could also be supportive to its teammates. So this could work, but at the same time, I don't know how it would look in game. Alright, next up is the Bento Splat Charger with Auto Bomb and Wave Breaker. Even though the Barazuchi Splat Charger and Splatter Scope drops with having Sprinkler and Crab Tank, referencing what the Toni Kensa Charger had in Splatoon 2, which was Sprinkler and Baller, this would be a slight update from what the Bento Charger had in Splatoon 1, as it originally had Splash Wall and Echo Locator, but Splash Wall is currently occupied by the ZNF Charger, so I think Auto Bomb would be somewhat of an interesting choice here, as you have a more location orientated kit around this weapon, and having 200p Wave Breaker would be a very interesting option here. Not only that, having a special that's 10 points cheaper than ZNF would definitely be interesting here. We could also do the same thing for the same thing would also apply for the Splatter Scope variant. Alright, next up is the Koro Splat Roller. Now, with Splat Bomb and Trizuka. Now, a lot of people reacted very like, their reactions towards the Barazuchi Paintbrush having Splash Wall and Zuka were just like a lot of people did not like it, or they were just like, they were questioning why Nintendo did it. But I will say this. I think replacing Splash Wall with Splat Bomb would definitely be a lot better for Roller. I think Splash Wall does little to nothing for Roller. And not only that, having Zuka for long range threats would definitely be the ideal option for Roller, as that's what it kind of struggles with, as its vertical flicks are not long enough to actually hit someone compared to something like Flings a Roller, Dynamo Roller, or Big Swig. Alright, next up is Permanent Ink Brush with Torpedo and Kraken. I think this would definitely work here. You have a Torpedo, which could help for location as well as a bit of chip damage, and you also have Kraken Royale, which if anyone tries to get if anyone gets too close to you, you could just deploy the special and just go after people with it. It originally was supposed to have Splat Bomb like it did in Splatoon 1, but Splat Bomb is already on the regular Ink Brush, so I think Torpedo could be an interesting option here. And at least it's better than Sprinkler as it had in Splatoon 2. I don't know why they gave Brush Sprinkler. As Ink Brush in Splatoon 1 had Sprinkler and Ink Strike, and Permanent Ink Brush in Splatoon 2 had Sprinkler and Ink Armor. I don't know why they keep giving Sprinkler to it, but I really hope it has Torpedo. This would definitely work a lot better than Sprinkler, and with Kraken Royale. Alright, next up is the Camo Tent Brella, with Curling Bomb and Ultra Stamp. So when the Barazuchi Tent Brella dropped, having Toxic Mist and Super Chump, this was a weapon that a lot of people did not like. This was like Nintendo's embarrassment. That was the weapon that just like shows that they do not care about they do not care about Tent Brella. Not only that, the kit that it currently has is just so weak that everyone's just going to be using the other two kits, as the regular Tent Brella has Squid Beacon and Ink Vac, and the Sorella model having Ink Mine and Zuka. So I think Curling Bomb and Ultra Stamp would be an interesting one here, as Curling Bomb could increase the weapon's mobility, as well as it could move into an area where it can deploy its canopy in a more effective area, and having Ultra Stamp would definitely be the best that we could give to Tent. This would be a lot better than Toxic Mist and Super Chump that the Barazuchi model has. Alright, next up are the Cleared Apple Dualies with Splat Bomb and Triple Splashdown. even though we were given Splat Bomb, Killer Whale 5.1 on the Barazuchi Dapple Dualies, I think Triple Splashdown would have worked a lot better for the weapons, as you're able to deploy the special. After you land, you could just dodge roll your way out of there, as people would be moving away from you, so they would not be splatted by the fists or by you. This would definitely work a lot better than Killer Whale 5.1, but a lot of people are still going to prefer the Dapple Dualies Nouveau, which have Torpedo and Reef Slider. But this could definitely be more effective than what the Barazuchi Dapple Dualies currently have. Alright, next up is the Toni Kensa Octobrush with Splat Bomb and Zuka. Even though this is basically what Octobrush Nouveau had in Splatoon 1, I don't know why they gave Squid Beacon and Inkstorm to Octobrush Nouveau. I don't know why. It's probably just because they wanted something like new, but at the same time, I don't know how Squid Beacon is going to be effective for Octobrush. Not only that, it's also going to vary on what special that you have with it. I mean, Inkstorm's kind of alright with it, but I prefer more of a interesting option here. As the Embers Octobrush has Auto Bomb and Kraken Royale, I think Splat Bomb and Zuka on the Toni Kensa model would definitely be very interesting choice, but at the same time, I don't think a lot of people would use it though. That would be my guess here. But it would be an interesting play to see the weapon in action with this kit. Alright, next up is the Toni Kensa Luna Blaster with Burst Bomb and Inkstorm. So currently the Luna Blaster has two very solid kits. Regular model having Splat Bomb and Zipcaster, and the other one having Fizzy Bomb and Ultra Stamp. This weapon originally had Fizzy Bomb, which I was wanting to give it, but they gave Fizzy Bomb to the Neo Luna Blaster, so I thought to give it Burst Bomb because I'm not going to give it Ink Mine. Because I think Ink Mine on Luna Blaster is just random and it barely does anything for the weapon. So I think Burst Bomb would work a lot for its chip damage, especially with Luna Blaster. You have to get very close to someone for it to actually be effective. And Inkstorm would have a more displacement role compared to the two aggressive or support. Yeah, I think one is aggressive. We both have aggressive Luna Blaster kits. So it would probably provide more of a displacement type support. Try to give it a change of pace. So this would definitely work. Alright, next up is the Toni Kensa Sloshing Machine with Auto Bomb and Crab Tank. A lot of people have seen Crab Tank, and a lot of people like Crab Tank next to Tacticooler and Trizuka. This would definitely be an interesting one here. Auto Bomb providing the location as well as the painting, and then Crab Tank would be able to hold down the fight long enough for your teammates to move in. And not only that, having Crab Tank on Sloshing Machine would definitely be an interesting thing here, as Crab Tank having 190p would definitely be very powerful. Could this be used? I don't know. Alright, next up is the Toni Kensa Rapid Blaster. Think of the same kit on the Toni Kensa Sloshing Machine, but replace the Auto Bomb with Burst Bomb and put it on Rapid Blaster. This would definitely be an interesting choice here, as you have something related with chip damage, and Rapid Blaster has very good chip damage with Burst Bomb, especially if you land a direct, which deals 85 damage. So this weapon would definitely be very powerful, having Burst Bomb and Crab Tank, which is basically the repeat of Splashmatic. But at the same time, this would also work for a weapon that could just go after people with a chip damage sub and having one of the best specials in the game. But of course, that statement or opinion may change as of 10.0 moving forward into the meta after Crab Tank's nerfs. Next up are the Toni Kensa Splat Dualies with Burst Bomb and Inkjet. A lot of people have liked Inkjet on Dualies looking back at Splatoon 2, specifically the End Parry Splat Dualies, which had Curling Bomb and Inkjet. Even though Curling Bomb still stayed on the End Parry Dualies, it was given Triple Splashdown. But I think Inkjet on these Dualies, the Toni Kensa models, would definitely be interesting, especially pairing them with Burst Bomb. I think a lot of people would be using these a lot more than the End Parry Dualies, but it's also going to compete with the regular Dualies, which has Suction Bomb and Crab Tank. Could this be used a lot more than the first two Dualies? I would think so, but unfortunately with the Ember Splat Dualies, this is probably going to compete heavily. The two of them are going to start. They're going to start knocking heads with each other. And finally, we have the Toni Kensa Splattershot Jr. with Autobomb and Inkstorm. This is the reference from what the custom model had in Splatoon 2. And I think for the Toni Kensa model, we can give it its big ink tank that we saw in Splatoon 2. I think it had that in Splatoon 1. So we could definitely, if you're using this weapon, you would be carrying the big ink tank, the bigger ink tank for a weapon like Splattershot Jr. because Splattershot Jr. is an entry type weapon. And not only that, having a bigger ink tank means you could throw up to 2 auto bombs, and being able to get Inkstorm at 200p would definitely be very effective. Could I see this weapon be used? Absolutely. Would Nintendo add it? I don't think so, unfortunately. And that's it. That is all of our weapons here. If you guys want to see more videos like this, just send a comment below. If you end up liking the video, consider subscribing, and I will see you all next time.